Hello, it's Friday in Saigon or Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam. So I haven't done a Periscope in a while, and I haven't done one in Vietnam yet. So I wanted to check in, and even though it might be close to midnight for you, maybe you'll catch this tomorrow when it's Friday for you. So I had a really good conversation with a client today, and I wanted to just pass on some of the highlights that may be helpful to you. Now, in regards to relationships, we've kind of been sold a lie. You know, we think that we're supposed to create comfort and domesticity in a relationship, and although that is true, we have to balance that with some tension and a little bit of playfulness and teasing, and not just comfort and attention, giving the other person, our partner, exactly what they need. So that's what we have to remember, is to sort of balance that comfort with a little bit of lust and excitement. And men and women are absolutely different and function differently in a relationship. I mean, men are pretty simple creatures, you know. You give them that level of the sexual gratification, you give them that support, you give them that comfort, and they're pretty happy. So in regards to that can be simple, but when it comes to relationships for women like a little bit of excitement. They like a little bit of drama. So you have to remember, when you have that status quo and you reach that equilibrium, it's really important to make that effort and stoke that fire in the relationship. You don't want it to get too boring. For women, they will start to cause trouble if they get bored. So for men, you want to be able to inject that effort by stoking that fire with a little bit of teasing and playfulness to keep it interesting. And for women, the way that they keep it interesting, the way that they are able to make the effort in the relationship that's important for men, is to extend that support, extend that sweetness, extend that service to the man, so that he knows that he's important to you, basically. So I think it's kind of like a polarity there, right? It's a complementary purpose that men and women serve for each other, but very different, and that's what makes it work. So I'm talking about attention and tension, because if you give too much attention to a woman, she says she wants you to dote on her, she wants the romance, she wants all of that, but if you flood her with it, it will put out that fire. So if you think about the things that a fire needs in order to flourish, right? There's the three things, I looked it up. It's heat, it's fuel, and air. So oxygen, wood, friction, those types of things. So if we apply it to relationships in the same way, we need to continue to stoke that fire with a little bit of that friction, a little bit of that air, and that heat. Obviously, that desire is one of the things that I talk about a lot in regards to, if you look on the top of my bio in Twitter, in my Twitter profile, you'll see that logic plus desire plus love equals an ideal partnership. And that's because desire is so important. It's kind of the center of that attraction, well, that sort of magnetism that draws the two of you together. But without the common sense, without fitting together well in a complementary way, you're not going to be able to last a whole lifetime. Too much air blows the fire out, as does not enough. Yep, that's absolutely true. It's interesting, the Periscope, I don't know if this is a Vietnam thing, but the way that it looks on my end changed, so I wasn't sure if it was working. So I'm seeing some comments come through now, which is, it's good to know that you guys are out there and that this can be a nice little dialogue for us. So feel free to add your comments or questions below. I'm happy to answer them if I can. But I should be making a YouTube video. I haven't recorded one yet in a while, or done a live one, because I'm trying to figure out with the time change which time is the most appropriate. But I definitely wanted to check in and let you guys know what I'm doing. So I'm still seeing clients on video calls regularly. I did say that my caseload is full. I do have a texting plan that's available now. It's a new thing for people who don't have time for the video calls, but maybe it's something that you need in like remote access. When women use a depressive illness to control a relationship and keep spouse attentive and unhappy. Well, I think that kind of just, without even talking about a pathology, like a mental illness, women in general who are very needy and codependent, they kind of use that to manipulate their partner to take care of their needs for them. So they may lack that confidence or that security or just even that general ability to regulate their own emotions. And so then they make you do the work for them, and they blame you so that you feel guilty and you feel obligated to then cater to them. It's like people pleasing for your partner, but that's so unhealthy and dysfunctional. You definitely want your red flags to be going off and think about your exit strategy without necessarily trying to abandon them so suddenly that maybe it causes some type of spiraling out. Oh, thank you very much. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate that. So yeah, I was actually talking about that with this person as well, because they had a history of codependency and people pleasing. And so you want to make sure that any type of, if you think about it, not to use a war analogy like Ivan Throne does, but if you think about offense and defense, whenever you sense yourself on the defense in a relationship, that's pretty much a bad sign. Especially as I'm talking about the man in particular. So if you're in defensive mode, that needs to be temporary and that needs to have a purpose. Like there needs to be an end for that. That means, right? So you cannot exist in a defensive frame of mind as a man. And it may be in different types of relationships, not just significant others, but maybe like family relationships or friendship relationships, where you kind of have to placate the situation, try to keep the peace for a while, and so you're on guard and defensive, but absolutely not appropriate for a romantic relationship for you to exist like that. So you have to figure out how to extricate yourself from that relationship in a safe way and make sure that you are sort of at the reins of your relationship, not necessarily on the offensive in regards to you being in conflict with the other person, but when you're in control, like let's say you're the general of your battalion or whatever, you're in control and you're calm, you're at peace, you have things in order. That's not necessarily being in an offensive position like you're fighting, but that you have that level of authority. I'm dating someone that isn't my full potential. How do I move forward? Well, if you've already established that they're not a good match for you and your red flags have gone off and it's definitely like a regressive situation that they're holding you back, I would just be honest about it. And if they can't handle a neutral, calm conversation that's honest about where you're at and how you're thinking about things and what you want, then that's just more reason to justify the fact that you need to move on. So just be civil, but absolutely, I think just the sooner the better in that regard. If you're sure, then there's no reason to stick around just to defer and procrastinate. That just sort of speaks more to your level of ambivalence, or maybe just resistance to doing something that's difficult. You're going to hurt somebody's feelings, but it'll be okay. Any other questions? These are great. I'm really appreciating these questions. But basically, getting back to the point, not flooding your partner with too much attention, remembering the effort in a relationship is not just about creating comfort, but also creating that tension that's going to keep the flame alive in a relationship. For a man, that effort is remembering how women work, that we like excitement, we like a little bit of that sort of uncertainty or drama. It keeps things interesting for us, whereas men are kind of okay with more of a status quo. They like more of that security or just sort of things are going well, things are pleasant, and that's okay for them. Women function a little differently. So men, even though they don't feel like it, it's important for you to make the effort and keep things interesting, injecting a little bit of that playfulness and teasing and excitement. from time to time. And for women, keeping things interesting is about providing that sweetness, that nurturing, that support, making sure that you're, even if you don't feel like it, you're, being sexual, you're spicing things up in the bedroom, you're making sure that your man knows that you adore him, you respect him, you're there for him, you're going to put him first and make sure his needs are met. So that's how that lines up in a complementary way in order to maintain a long-lasting relationship in a way that satisfies both persons' needs and both people are making a concerted effort to the relationship so that it is flourishing. And there are going to be dips in the relationship, right? When you feel a little bit, not necessarily bored, but you're going to have like a little bit of dip where it's just life, right? That's how life is. If you were single and alone, you would have the same experience on your own. So it's up to you. It's up to you to make your relationship as great as you want it to be, and not necessarily pointing a finger at somebody else and saying, well, they're boring or they're, slacking. Take the responsibility and do the work yourself. Should you be trying to identify your spouse's needs rather than assuming they are like your own? Yeah, don't make those assumptions. I would just bring it out and ask the question, what do you need from me? How are you doing? Checking in. I have a video on YouTube. Feel free to check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already looked at the archive of videos. There's a couples care or couple care video about exactly that. Checking in, having a little bit of an appraisal for the relationship. You don't have to make it super stuffy, but just literally having a check-in and letting each other know what you're doing well, like actually saying, this is what I feel that I've been doing well lately. This is what I feel that I need some work in. Maybe I've been slacking. And then letting the other person know your feedback on what you feel they're doing really well, what you're really grateful for, what you appreciate about them. And then maybe you can offer some suggestions of things that you need that would be helpful for them to contribute to. Now, you should not be meeting all of your partner's needs, but when you're in a relationship, if you think about it as the relationship is your responsibility, not necessarily the person. So in order for the relationship to flourish, you have a responsibility to the actual relationship as your role as girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, lover. And so I think it's a lot easier to see it that way sometimes when you recognize this is not just a gift that you're given, it's a responsibility, and you owe it in order to benefit from it, to put in the work that it requires to make it wonderful. And so, yeah, it's a little bit different than saying, okay, well, my partner needs attention, needs sex, or needs reassurance, needs encouragement, needs validation, all of those things. It's much more, I think, useful to see it as the relationship needs those things in order for me to be doing a good job as a partner and in order for me to be benefiting from my partner as well. So maybe that was helpful for you to reframe it a little bit. I like to see the relationship as an entity in and of itself, not just about the other person and them being there for making your life better, right? You have to take on the responsibility in reverse. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate your engagement tonight for you, or today for me. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Friday here in Vietnam. I have a nice date night planned tonight, and we're going to go to a rooftop restaurant / lounge or whatever called the Social Club, which was a good recommendation from a guy on Twitter named Jim, because he had passed through Vietnam and it looks awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that. We've been kind of in the poor local area, walking around and trying out amazing restaurants, but it's more on the low-key side and totally immersed in the local culture, which has been fun. But we're going to go somewhere a little bit more upscale tonight, which will be nice. I might wear my bright red dress and be fancy. And explore a little bit more of Vietnam. So we'll be here for another week and a half, and then we're moving up the coast to other little beach towns in Vietnam. And then after a couple of weeks of Vietnam, we're going to go to Thailand and see what comes next. But I'll be here in Southeast Asia for a little bit. So don't forget to check in. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know, what questions you have, what content you'd like. And I'll keep you posted, and I'll get back to regularly scheduled content as soon as I can. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be lovely. A little sunset soiree with champagne and nibbles and lots of passion. So I will bid you adieu. Have a good one. Ciao.